There is a grief nobody prepares you for. It does not arrive with a funeral. There is no casket, no ceremony, no one sending flowers. The people you are mourning are still alive. They are sitting across from you at the dinner table. They are calling you on the phone. They are in every photograph on your wall. And yet something between you has died. You feel it. You cannot name it. But you feel it the way you feel a room go cold when no window is open. The world tells you that family is everything. That blood is thicker than water. That loyalty to your own is the highest virtue a person can hold. And most people accept that without question. But Carl Jung, the man who spent his entire life excavating the architecture of the human psyche, arrived at a conclusion that will unsettle you. He believed the most necessary act of psychological survival a human being will ever perform is separation, not from strangers, not from enemies, but from the very people who raised you. And he believed that most people will never do it, not because they lack courage, but because the family itself has been engineered across generations to make sure they don't. There is a mechanism buried inside your family system that most psychologists will not explain publicly. It operates below language, below logic, below love. And by the end of this, you will understand exactly how it works. The role you never auditioned for. Every family is a stage, and on that stage, every member has been assigned a character. You did not choose your character. You were cast before you could speak, before you had preferences, opinions, or a sense of self. The family looked at you, assessed its own needs, and handed you a script. Some of you were cast as the responsible one, the anchor, the one who holds everything together so nobody else has to. Some of you were cast as the difficult one, the scapegoat, the lightning rod for every unspoken tension your parents were too afraid to address between themselves. And some of you were cast as the invisible one, the child whose job was to need nothing, to take up no space, to make the family appear stable by simply never causing disruption. Jung called this the persona, the mask. But inside a family, the persona is not something you wear. It is something that is welded onto your face before the bones have even hardened. Here is where it becomes brutal. The role you were assigned had nothing to do with who you are. It had everything to do with what your family needed you to be to preserve its own equilibrium. Think about that. Your identity, the thing you have been defending, performing, and suffering inside for decades, was never yours. It was a structural requirement. A load-bearing wall inside a house that was cracking long before you were born. There is a case from the early psychoanalytic literature that illustrates this with surgical precision. In 1920s Vienna, a young man came to analysis paralyzed by indecision. He could not choose a career, could not sustain a relationship, could not make a single consequential choice without calling his mother first. He was 31 years old. His analyst traced the paralysis back to the family constellation. The young man was the eldest son of a woman whose husband had emotionally abandoned her within 3 years of their marriage. The mother, unconsciously, had recruited her son as an emotional surrogate, not a lover, something more insidious, a witness, someone whose permanent job was to stay close enough that she would never have to feel the full weight of her loneliness. Every time the son attempted to individuate, to date, to travel, to pursue work in another city, the mother did not rage. She did something far more effective. She got sick, headaches, fatigue, a mysterious heart flutter that would vanish the moment he cancelled his plans and returned home. He was not her child. He was her organ, a functioning part of her emotional body that she could not survive without. Jung would later write that the most dangerous prisons are the ones built with affection instead of iron. This is your first reckoning. The role you play inside your family is not love. It is architecture. And the moment you start dismantling it, the moment you say, "I am not the person you decided I was," you are not rejecting your family. You are collapsing a building they have been living inside for their entire lives, and they will fight you. Not because they are evil, but because to them, your growth feels like an earthquake. What makes this particularly devastating is the precision of the timing. You don't realize you have been playing a role until you have already spent decades inside it. By the time you wake up, in your 30s, your 40s, sometimes later, the role has calcified into identity. You don't know where the performance ends and where you begin. You have fused with the mask so completely that removing it feels like removing your own face. And the family? The family has fused with it too. They do not see a mask. They see you. And when you tell them, "This is not me," you might as well be telling them the sky has changed color. They cannot see what you see. They do not want to see what you see, because seeing it would mean admitting they helped build the cage. Quick pause. If you've been watching Mindplicit for a while, you know I don't ask for much. But what I'm about to say matters, so listen for 30 seconds. YouTube demonetized this channel. The advertisers don't want this material reaching you. So everything I can't say here, the harder applications, the specific tactics, the breakdowns the algorithm punishes me for, that work lives on Patreon now. The members-only videos, the audio podcast, the full written scripts, the frameworks I can describe in public but can't actually teach in public. It's $4.99 a month. Less than a coffee for the half of this channel YouTube won't let me publish. If the public videos have been valuable to you, the inside is where the work sharpens. Link is in the description and pinned in the comments. The doors open. Back to the video. The guilt machine. Now we arrive at something darker. Something most people feel every single day but have never been given language for. Guilt. Not the guilt you feel when you do something wrong. A different species entirely. The guilt you feel when you do something right, for yourself, and your family treats it as a betrayal. You got the promotion. You moved to the new city. You started therapy. You set a boundary. You said no to the holiday gathering. You married someone they did not select. And instead of celebration, you received a punishment so subtle it took you years to even recognize it as punishment. The long pause on the phone, the clipped tone, the passive observation disguised as concern. You've changed. You think you're better than us now. I just hope you don't forget where you came from. These are not casual remarks. These are precision instruments. Jung understood that guilt is not always a moral signal. Sometimes guilt is a control mechanism installed in childhood, designed to activate the moment you attempt to cross the perimeter of the family system. Think of it like an invisible fence, the kind used for dogs. The yard looks open. There is no wall, no chain. The animal believes it is free, but the moment it approaches the boundary, it receives a shock. Over time, the dog stops trying. It stays in the center of the yard, not because it cannot leave, because the pain of leaving has been conditioned into its nervous system. Your family's guilt operates on the same principle. And here is the part that will disturb you. The people administering the shocks are often unaware they are doing it. Your mother does not sit in a dark room plotting how to keep you small. Your father is not consciously designing a prison. They are repeating a program that was installed in them by their parents, who received it from their parents, who received it from theirs. Jung called this the psychic inheritance, the unresolved wounds, the unexamined beliefs, the unprocessed grief of previous generations, passed down not through conversation, but through atmosphere, through the particular way a mother sighs when her daughter mentions moving abroad, through the exact intonation a father uses when he says, "Must be nice to have time for that." You are not carrying your own guilt. You are carrying the accumulated, compressed, fossilized guilt of an entire bloodline that never learned how to let its children go. And the cruelest part, the guilt works precisely because you are a good person. A selfish child would feel nothing. A cold child would walk away without looking back. But you feel the pull. You feel the invisible thread tightening around your ribs every time you take a step forward. You interpret that tightening as proof that you are doing something wrong. You are not doing something wrong. You are doing the one thing the system was designed to prevent. Joseph Campbell studied this pattern across every mythology on Earth. In nearly every hero narrative, from Siddhartha Gautama leaving his father's palace in the dead of night to the youngest son in European folk tales who must depart the family hearth against every prohibition, the departure from the family is not optional. It is the prerequisite for becoming a full human being. Campbell called it the separation, the first stage of the hero's journey. And he noticed something that most readers overlook. In these myths, the family almost always tries to stop the hero from leaving. The father locks the gates. The mother weeps. The village elders warn of monsters beyond the border. The message is always the same. If you leave, something terrible will happen. But in every single version of the story, the real monster is what happens to the hero if he stays. Love as architecture. There is a clinical term that sounds technical but describes something you have lived inside your entire life. Enmeshment. Enmeshment is a family system in which the boundaries between individual members have dissolved, where one person's emotions automatically become another person's emergency, where you cannot feel joy without checking if your mother approves, where you cannot feel pain without your father dismissing it. In an enmeshed family, love does not flow freely. It circulates under pressure, like blood in a closed system. And the system requires that no blood escapes. You have been inside this system so long, you think it is normal. You think it is love. You think the suffocating closeness, the surveillance disguised as caring, the inability to have a private thought without it being interrogated, you think that is what family means. It is not. Murray Stein, one of the foremost interpreters of Jungian thought, describes this dynamic with chilling clarity. He writes that in an enmeshed family, the child's ego never fully separates from the family's collective identity. The child does not develop an I. The child develops a we, and mistakes it for selfhood. Every decision is filtered through the family's approval. Every emotion is cross-referenced against the family's comfort level. The child grows into an adult who can function in the world, but who, at the deepest level, does not know where the family ends and where they begin. This is not closeness. This is colonization. Jung's own childhood was an education in enmeshment's wreckage. His mother, Emily, was hospitalized for depression when he was only 3 years old. She vanished from his life without warning or explanation. When she returned, she was erratic, warm in one moment, psychically absent the next. Jung later wrote that this early rupture created in him a deep, lasting suspicion that the word love could not be trusted, that it was a container with a false bottom. His father, a Protestant pastor, deteriorated into spiritual despair, clinging to a faith he no longer believed in. The household became a theater of performance, a family pretending to function while every member silently drowned. Jung did not simply study individuation as an academic theory. He lived the necessity of it. He understood from the marrow of his own experience that a family can love you and still be the thing that prevents you from becoming real. Marie-Louise von Franz, Jung's closest collaborator, spent decades analyzing fairy tales through the lens of analytical psychology. She found a pattern so consistent it could not be coincidence. In story after story, from the Brothers Grimm to Scandinavian folklore to Russian folk tales, the child who stays home inherits nothing. The child who leaves, who crosses the dark forest, who disobeys the parental prohibition, that child inherits the kingdom. Von Franz argued that these stories are not entertainment. They are psychological instruction manuals, encoded by the collective unconscious across centuries, delivering a single message over and over: you must leave. The family cannot take you where you need to go, but notice, and this is critical, the stories never say the leaving is painless. The youngest son weeps at the threshold. The daughter looks back at the lit window of the cottage. The departure is always soaked in grief, because the pain is not a side effect of outgrowing your family. The pain is the mechanism, the threshold guardian. When you begin to change, truly change, something strange happens inside your family. At first, they ignore it. They treat your new boundaries, your new language, your new posture as a phase, a trend. something you picked up from a book or a therapist that will wear off by next Christmas. But when it doesn't wear off, when they realize the change is structural, not cosmetic, the response escalates.